Well, I hope you're enjoying your summer, and summer has officially begun, seems like. We haven't officially gotten to the heat part of it yet, but that's okay. I'm good with where we are, aren't you? I'm perfect with where we are. We've been studying a series called The Good Work, and we're going to continue that. I want you to know that you are a part of a work, a good work. God's doing a work in you, and He wants to do a work in us because after He does that work in us, He can do the work that He wants to do through us. Sometimes we need our edges refined a little bit. I know one day this week, right out of the clear blue sky, Michelle said, I don't think you've heard a single word I've said. And I thought, that sure is a strange way to start a conversation. That was kind of like one of the wave, you know, it just started, a few got it, and then another got it, and somebody poked somebody, what do you mean by that, you know? I want you to turn with me in your Bible to the book of Nehemiah. We're talking about Nehemiah and the good work and what Nehemiah did. And as we're getting started, I'm guessing that each one of us has something that we consider our cause, something that we're giving ourselves to, something that we're invested in, that we are interested in, something that we feel like needs to be done, but we don't see it getting done. And so you have this idea of some things that you're looking at, things that weigh in on you, and you're desiring to see something change. Maybe it's in your personal life. Maybe it's in your professional life. Maybe it's in your secular life. Maybe in your Christian life. Maybe it's some kind of an injustice, some kind of a need, someone you see that's hurting, someone that's abused, someone neglected. Maybe it's a burden you carry, something that disturbs you, something that keeps you awake at night, upsets you, maybe even makes your blood boil. You ever see anything that makes your blood boil? Not literally, but you know, you think, that makes me so mad to see that happening. Oh, I wish I could help that. I wish I could do something about that. The burden that you bear often reveals the calling that you'll embrace. That means things that God puts on your heart are things that you will embrace as a calling to do something about. So is it possible that the burden that you're bearing is, in essence, a calling that you need to embrace so that you can see something happen, effect a change in a certain place or a certain situation? And I'll tell you this, you rarely know when you're on the front end of something special. It's not like you go and there's a big billboard that says, from here on out, your life is going to be something very special. You're entering into the special phase of life, and now, from now on, things are going to be not superficial, but supernatural. They're not going to be ordinary, they're going to be extraordinary. From now on, you're going to be moving in realms you've never moved in before. It's like we don't see that. You don't know that. It's like when it happened one day you wake up and said, wow, this is amazing. How did I get here? It'd be nice, but yet I think it might be too scary if all of a sudden we came to a place in our lives and the billboard lit up and said, from this day on, you're going to be living in a supernatural life that's far above you ever imagined, things that you never thought would happen. You're going to be moving in areas that you never dreamed you would move in. I think some of us might back out and say, wait a minute, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I can tell you right now, if some odd years ago, God spoke to me when I was just teaching and coaching, but where I'd be today, I said, there's no way that can happen. And I would have rejected that call because I would have thought, there's no way that can happen. It's not uncommon. When God spoke to Moses about what He's going to do, Moses said, there's no way, it's not going to happen. So we have to move into these things step by step, moment by moment, piece by piece. Like I said, you rarely know when you're on the front end of something big. I remember many years ago now, when God put it in our hearts, I shared last week with you about how we just were fed up with going to church, fed up with dry religion. We knew we had to have something, and what that thing that made our blood boil, that thing that caused us to stay awake at night, that thing that said there's got to be more in us. It was the area that God was working in our lives. It was the burden that reflected what we would embrace later in our lives. And when we said, hey, we're going to start a fellowship in Colorado, one in the cabin, we'll just go back and forth and have, we had an idea, we had a vision, we had a dream, but we mainly just had to have some relief. You ever understand that? Yeah, I just got to have some relief. I'm going to step out in this area because I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm so worn out with being worn out with dry, dead religion. I got to have something that's going to give me something from Sunday afternoon till next Saturday night that I can live by. So when we said, hey, we're going to do this, we thought, we're just going to step out and do it. We didn't really know where it would go. Didn't know what would happen. When we got started, we moved along, and, we started in Maranatha Christian Center several years ago, 30-something years ago, and who knew, one day we were going to be having an MCC dream team. I didn't know about a dream team. We got 50, 60, 70 people signed up working in our dream team now. And that's amazing. And we never thought about doing any kind of podcast or videoing and showing videos online. We didn't think about that. At that time, we didn't know what online was. Sometimes you can't plan for your future because we have no idea what the future is. So we have to live day by day and take it step by step. And God leads us. If God said we're going to do some podcasts, I said, podcast? Well, we got some beans or something? We're going to be throwing beans at people when we grow up, What's going on here? So sometimes we don't know what will become the outcome of what we're doing. We just know that we're obedient as we go. And I'll tell you that right now. We still don't know what the outcome is. We saw a need, we felt a need, we had a burden, we had an opportunity. We thought, let's give this a shot, and we'll just do this. Let's see what God will do with this. We had a burden to do it. That's exactly where I think some of you might be right now. You're at a place where you're considering serving. You're praying about an idea that you have. You're thinking about starting something, about joining something, about being something, and you've got it. It's kind of stirring around your mind, and you lay down at night, and the quiet night, it kind of comes back to you. And you think, is this God? And sometimes you don't know for sure if it's God or if it's just a desire you're having, but you pray on through it, and we're going to talk about some steps that we're going to do. So some of you are like that right now. You don't know what's going on. You may really be and don't even have any idea that you're on the very front end of something really special in your life. Do not discount yourself, and certainly do not discount God. Because as we said last week, God plus one's in a majority. God plus one can do anything. Jesus said, apart from me, you can do nothing, but in me, you can do everything. I believe today some of us are right in that place. I believe this message is timely for some of us. I think some will be watching this online. They'll say, you know what? Even though that happened last week or week before, it was right where I am right now. It's for me. Very special. We're talking about the good work out of the book of Nehemiah. And if you've read the book of Nehemiah, and I encourage you to read the whole book because we're not reading all the chapter, all the verses and chapter, we're just reading parts of it. But Nehemiah was involved in a good work. In fact, throughout this time, he'll say, I cannot stop what I'm doing a good work. I'm doing something important. Do you in your life feel that you're doing a good work, doing something important? Your life is making a difference? Well, I believe you're here to make a difference in somebody's life, in some event, in something. I believe we're all here for a purpose. You've heard me say that we're created on purpose for a purpose. So just to get a little background from where we were last week, you remember we talked about that in the year 587 BC, a long time ago. Nebuchadnezzar, an evil king of the Babylonians, they came in and they were marauders, even though they were kings. Sometimes they were just kings of regions or kings of tribes. And he was the king in Babylonia, and he came in and saw that Jerusalem had a lot of wealth. They had gold, they had silver, they had a lot. And so they went in, they ransacked the city of Jerusalem, and all the people took thousands of people captive. They burned down the buildings, they tore down the temples, they stole all the gold, they left it in ruins. And they took people captive, and decades later, some of the Jews were released or escaped or whatever and went back to Jerusalem to rebuild the homeland. They had no economic system, had no leadership, they had no plans, they had no hope, and everything was failing. Well, 140 years after that destruction, this ordinary guy named who? Nehemiah. Nehemiah got brokenhearted over what he saw, what he heard about. And he had a stirring. It was irritating. He couldn't get away from it. It was something, a calling that he had to embrace. And he felt like, I've got to do something to help rebuild Jerusalem, rebuild my city. And remember last week we said this, he was not ordained. He was not a pastor. He was not a builder. He was not a warrior. He was not verified by anybody. He was nobody special. In fact, he was a butler. He was the cupbearer for the king. And he said something like this, I've got to do something, because he didn't have any formal position, but he did have a burning passion. You don't have to have a formal position if you've got a burning passion. Passion will make a position. And so he had a passion to see something happen. I think some of us are in that place today. Your passion is beginning to burn. Maybe over the last few weeks, something has started burning inside. You feel that, hey, it's not just, it's not that I need, some Pepto-Bismol. It's not that kind of burning. It's a burning in my desires. It's a burning in my heart to see something happen, to accomplish something great. And you may not know how great it is. You just feel like I have something I got to do. So remember what Nehemiah did last week? What did he say he did? He sat down and cried. His heart was broken. He sat down and cried. Then he knelt down to pray. And then he stood up to act. Many of us get in the sit down to cry and we never get up. We don't pray. We're just still complaining and concerned 10, 15, 20 years after something. There's a time to pray, but then there's a time to get up and act. Well, I've been praying for this about like 30 years, and I really know I'm supposed to do it, but I'm not sure when I'm going to do it. Maybe one day, and we just keep putting out maybe one day. There's a time, and you'll know when it's time. There's a time to step up and act. Just don't miss the time when you know it is. Does that make sense? Well, I knew 20 years ago I was supposed to do something, and I know I'm supposed to do it, but I haven't done it yet. There's so many people that are sitting on what they should have done. I should have done something. Look, if you should have done something, get up and do it. If you still got that desire and that burden, don't sit around and wait. Get up and do it. Sit down and cry. Kneel down and pray. Stand up and act. Somebody's got to do something. He said, it might as well be me. So, today we're going to talk about how to do the work. How to make something happen. How to make a difference. First thing we do, seek God faithfully. Have you been seeking God? You see, just because you have a desire to do something doesn't mean you're ready to do it. And that's where a lot of people get in trouble. They have a desire and then say, well, I've got this desire, so I'm going to run out and do it right now. I'm going to go out. So they end up doing the right thing at the wrong time in the wrong way, and it becomes wrong. Did you know that the right thing to do done the wrong way can be the wrong thing? We can mess it up. So what you do, seek God faithfully. If you'll read through the book of Nehemiah, you'll see 12 different times in there that Nehemiah was praying, was seeking God. He continually sought God. The Bible says, pray without ceasing. Continue to pray and seek God. It's like being in the service. We got a lot of people who've been in the service. In the service, you don't get up and decide each day whether you're going to stay in the service or not that day. You're in there until the time to get out. So as a believer, we don't wake up every day and say, well, I'm not sure I'm going to follow Jesus there or not. We wake up every morning. Yes, sir, I'm here for duty. Ready. What's my call for the day? Seek God faithfully. What am I doing today? There's a timeline that was involved in this, and we're not going into a lot of detail about it, but he heard the news in 1 month. And I'll tell you what the month was. It was in the period of Kislev. Kislev was between November and December. He started praying when he heard that the city was in ruins and the people were being devastated. He prayed and prayed, and it says in the month of Nisan, not the car, in the month of Nisan, he was praying and fasting. That was 4 months later. It's impossible to describe how tricky it is in our way of thinking to describe what it was like for the cupbearer to go before the king in the condition he was in. I alluded to it last week, but I want to tell you a little more about that. Eastern kings had this puffed up idea that they were enough to make anybody happy. I know some people think that about themselves. If I show up, everybody will be happy because I'm so. But these kings, not only do they have a gigantic ego. They had gigantic authority to go along with that ego. And if anyone made a king mad, he had no qualms at all, and no one would challenge him. He would say, take them out and cut their head off. Feed them to the lions. Why? Because I don't like the way they looked when they came into my presence. They made me sad. So these egos of these Eastern kings was such that you did not go. In fact, I know it's not like that here in the United States. The queen themselves did not come in. Remember when Esther went in? Unless the king extends his staff, you're not even supposed to come in. Nehemiah was a cupbearer. He had no right to go before the king for any other reason than to say, this cup is fit for you to drink. He followed him around like a little puppy all the time, and he had his wine or his water or whatever he wanted to drink. Eastern kings were protected from any unpleasantness. You don't even go into the king and bear bad news. Sometimes you heard people say, well, hey, I'm just the deliverer. Don't kill the messenger. They did. You got this message, say, oh man, I got to go. I'm dead. I got to go tell the king that he's going to kill me. Literally. So here he went in, and listen to what he said in Nehemiah chapter 2, starting with the second part of verse 1. He said, I had not been sad in the presence of the king before. I had not been sad. Hey, I may have had a terrible night's sleep. I may have felt bad. I may have the flu. I may have all that. But when I go to the king, I put a smile on my face and I'm cheery. I've not been sad in his presence before. So when he came in, the king said, why does your face look so sad when you're not ill? This can be nothing but sadness of heart. In other words, Nehemiah could be thinking, oh no, he's getting ready to bring the hatchet down. Is this sadness of heart? If it is, hey, you're out of here, buddy. It's been nice knowing you. I've got 4 cupbearers in training. I'll bring one up to the A team. The king said to me, what is it you want? Then I prayed to the God of heaven. Man, you can pray quick on the spot. You don't have to go kneel and pray somewhere. I prayed, God, if you don't show up, I'm going to be a dead duck. I prayed to the God of heaven, and then I answered the king. You see, when it comes to prayer, nothing is too big for God's power, and also nothing is too small for God's heart. Pray about everything, the Bible says. If it concerns you, it concerns him. I remember when we were praying, and we don't have time to go into all the detail about this, praying about Maranatha Christian Center's location. We thought, we've got to move. We've got to get out of that little white building. We didn't own the building. We were renting the building. It was not convenient. We needed a place to go. We needed a home. There was not enough space there. We began to pray, and we said, God, show us what to do. And the long story short, I remember I'd gone over to Idabel and rented a little Cessna, and we were flying, and I was just making a loop around town. When I turned to the left, my left wing, when you turn, your left wing goes down, turn left, and my left wing was sitting on top of this, pointing right down to the pecan tree out there. And I was just making a circle, and God said, that's where the church is going to be. Just like that. And so I said, I got an excitement about it. And I went back, I came home, I started finding out about this property and asking about it. And finally found out that, yes, they would sell it. And they said they would sell it for this amount of money, and the price was okay, but there was a condition on that selling. Never let people put conditions on God's promises. There was a condition that said, we'll sell you this property, but you've got to write in the contract there will never be any retail business on that property. Now, I wasn't planning on doing a retail business. All I had planned, but you never know what's on the heart of God. I never knew. That meant we couldn't have a bookstore. If we wanted to have a bookstore, it would be a retail business possibly. So I just didn't feel right about the limitations that were being put on the property. And I would not put, and so this was, we were going 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. So for 2 weeks, it just sat idle. We said, I can't do that. Came back, this went on for several months. And finally, one night, we were getting ready to go back to Colorado. On the next day, the owner of the property called me and said, can you come visit with me? I said, yes. We went out there, and he said, how much frontage do you need? And he said, would 186 feet across the front be enough? I said, yeah, we can handle that. That took us to our second driveway right out here, just right at the second driveway. He said, yeah, we can handle that. He said, here's what we'll do. With no restrictions, I'll give you, designate that much frontage. And he said, I want to tell you something. I've been tormented over this thing ever since you said you couldn't do this. God's been tormenting me. I've been feeling I got to do something. He said, I'll just give you that land. So for that post over there to 186 feet straight back to MLK, he gave it to us. And we were able to start work, so forth and so on. A few years later, this is another story, but a miracle happened, and this property over here, which was part of the original property, it was owned by now his wife, who they had separated, and she had it, and a bank had it because she had put it down as money on a house she was buying. I went to the bank and made them a ridiculously low offer that they had been offered, I know, 3 times as much as that. I made them an offer for it, and they said, we'll take it. Y'all need that. It's right beside your property. You need it. It wasn't State Bank of DeKalb. It was a bank that doesn't know us. It was a bank in Texarkana. They said, we want to do that. You can buy it for that. So don't let up on what God's told you to do. If he tells you something, stick with it. And don't compromise. Don't compromise. I'm going to tell you, if prayer isn't necessary to accomplish your vision, you're not thinking big enough. And it took a lot of prayer, but we waited and waited on God, and we prayed, and when God said do something, we did it, and it didn't work, so we said, oh, well, okay, God, I guess you need to cook it a little longer. We waited, and finally, it came to us instead of us going chasing after it. So you may be thinking, well, what I've got in my mind is just too big. It'll never happen. If you can do it yourself, it's not big enough. If it doesn't take a miracle, then it's probably not God. So the first thing you do, this thing asked if I wanted to share that. I don't want to share anything. I am sharing. Seek faithfully, God faithfully. The second thing we do is define your vision clearly. Get a definite vision of what you're wanting to do. What you feel God is speaking to you about. Most people, it's not a lack of caring that's the problem. It's a lack of clarity. The king asked Nehemiah a simple question. Nehemiah came in. He told him he was sad. The king said, what can I do? When your vision is about to be fulfilled and someone asks you, what can I do? Be sure you know what to tell them. Have it defined clearly so that you have something to tell them. Nehemiah said in verse 4, if it pleases the king and if your servant has had favor in his sight, let him send me to the city in Judah where my ancestors are buried so that I can rebuild it. Define the vision. Please send me to Judah so I can rebuild the city. He didn't say something like this. Well, there's something I've been thinking about, and it's kind of been on my heart a little bit lately. I've got this aunt named Mary and a cousin named Mickey, and they've got 3 kids, and one of them, is sick, and he sent me a link about going to do a mission trip, and so I thought maybe we might want to go on a mission trip sometime, and I was just wondering, I'm kind of tired of pouring wine. I'm kind of tired of being here every day, and I've always wanted to travel, so I wish you could send some letters to me, and I could give it to people, and they could take my offering and give me some money, and we'd go on a mission trip. He didn't say a bunch of stuff like that. For most people, it's not a lack of caring, it's a lack of clarity. He told me exactly what he wanted, exactly what he needed. If you have a burden to help children, which children do you want to help? I just did a burden to help children. Well, there's children everywhere. Which ones do you want to help? Well, I don't know. I just want to help children. You're not going to get anybody to help you that way. Well, I just feel like I just want to minister to the hurting. Okay? Which hurting? Well, I don't know any hurting. Well, I just feel like we're supposed to be feeding people. Okay? What people are you going to feed? I don't know. How are you going to feed them? I don't know. I just feel like I'm supposed to be doing that. And by the way, we've got people here who have that vision, and we're in the process right now getting set up to have a feeding program, MCC Share. But it's direct vision. It's ordered. It's known. It's in the process. Where are you going to do this? Oh, I don't know. Anywhere you can find a place. Well, are you going to go to Africa to do it? Or are you going to do it in the United States? Well, probably the United States, but where in the United States? I don't know. We'll find a place. See, people are not going to follow visions like that. You got to have clarity. If you can't define it, you can't do it. What is God leading you to do? He said, send me to Judah so I can rebuild the city. Send me to Judah so I can rebuild the city. What's God leading you to do? Maybe he's leading you to lead all your family to Christ, and that's your goal. I'm going to lead all my family to Christ by the end of 2020. I'm going to win my neighbors to Jesus Christ. I'm going to share my personal conversion with everyone in my class before I graduate. I want people to know where I stand. That's a goal. Maybe you have a goal. I want to look back and say, I made donation of $100,000 to MCC in 10 years. I have a goal to do that. Now let me tell you about that goal. For most of us, if that's your goal and you start acting on that, it means in 10 years you're going to be raised, your income's going to raise. Because most wouldn't give $10,000 in 10 years unless your income raised. But you have a goal, you start acting on that goal, moving in that direction. I want to help 5 kids come to know Jesus Christ. If you can't define it, you can't do it. You've got to know what your call is and what your vision is. If your vision isn't clear, people can't follow. So first, seek God faithfully. Second, define the vision clearly. Third, make your plans carefully. Make your plans carefully. A goal without a plan is a wish, a hope. Not the kind of hope the Bible hopes. It's like, I sure hope this works. I'm just going to throw something out there. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Make plans. Make plans carefully. Sometimes one of the most spiritual things you can do is get organized. God is a systematic God. And let me tell you, organization, systematic, is not a dirty word. There was a time back in the day when the charismatic Pentecostal movement was kicking off that organization was a dirty word. Systematic. No, we're not going to have any plan. We all get together and just do what the Holy Spirit leads us to do. And so there was a lot of chaos. Do you know God is not a God of chaos? The earth was in chaos. God brought order to it. There's nothing wrong with order as long as you get His divine order and not our human order. God is a systematic God. If you don't believe that, look at the world that He created. Somebody had to tell the oceans they can only go this high. You know, the sun goes up, the water comes out of the ocean, it rains, runs back in, but the ocean doesn't rise, it doesn't go down. God's a systematic God. We live in this very organized solar system. If it was not organized, we'd freeze one day and burn the next. It's organized because we have 7 days in every week. Some weeks don't have 3 days, some 6. 7 days in a week, 12 months in a year, 365 and 1/4 days in a year. Isn't that something? 12 months, 365 and a quarter days. That means we have an extra day every other year. What do we call that? Leap year. But it happens all the time. God is a God of order, 24 hours in a day. It's not like here in the United States we get 24 hours, but over in some other country, because they're not very well off, they only get 13 hours. God's a God of order. So make plans carefully. Look at verse 6, chapter 2. Then the king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked me, how long will your journey take? And when will you get back? He wanted to know what's going on. He wanted to know, did you have some kind of order? Do you have any kind of plan for this thing? And he said, it pleased the king to send me, so I did what? I set a time. And I also said to him, look at this, if it pleases the king, may I have letters to the governors of the Trans-Euphrates area so that they will provide me safe conduct when I arrive to Judah. In other words, I'm going over there. Would you give me basically like a passport? would you put your seal on it, and so that those other kings will give me free passage through because they trust you and they obey you and they're scared of you? So he said, man, he's got it laid out. I'm going to go there for such and such a time, and would you give me a passport to go through? And also, would you write a note to the keeper of your forest? He called it right here. Would you have a letter to Asaph, keeper of the royal park or the royal forest, so that he will give me timber to make beams for the gates of the citadel by the temple and for the city wall and for the residence that I will occupy. He had it all laid out, didn't he? This is what I need. And because of the gracious hand of God was on me, the king said, got it. Don't be afraid to ask for big stuff. Don't be afraid to expect big things. Don't be afraid to do what? Dream big. Your dream's got to be big. If it's not big, it's just mediocre. If you accomplish it, you don't even know if you did it or not. Dream big, think big, ask big. I'm reminded of the character. He's in the Bible one time. One time. He didn't make the Hall of Faith, but he made a special impression on God. Over in Chronicles, over in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, there's a cat over there named Jabez. You know what Jabez means? Sorrowful. I was born in sorrow. His mom named him Jabez. That's a label to put on your kid. Sorry you were born, kid. Man. Jabez, in the middle of all this chronology of people, so beget so-and-so, they beget so-and-so, they beget so-and-so, they beget so-and-so, and it's that part where you fall asleep, and beget so-and-so, beget so-and-so. And Jabez was more honorable than all these others we're talking about. Whoa, that catches my attention. What did Jabez do that made God put in his word that he was more honorable than all those other hundreds that we've been talking about? It said Jabez was more honorable than the rest of them because he prayed. And he said, God, bless me indeed. Give me a big blessing, God. Bless me indeed. Expand my boundaries. Widen my scope. Man, give me more land. Help me be more influential. Bless me indeed. Expand my boundaries. Let your hand be upon me. And keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me. And you know what the Bible says? And God granted him his request. I wonder how many of us don't get those requests granted because we never ask. Does the Bible not say you have not because you ask not? Jabez was more honorable than all those others, even though he was born in pain and he was worried. He was a pain kid. God says that dude's honorable. And said he gave him his request. The king did what? He granted him his request. Don't be afraid to ask for big things. He asked for protection and provision. He sought God. He got a plan. He took God's plan to the king. God directed his words and his steps. He was incredibly clear about what he was going to do and how he was going to do it. He said, this is what I need from you, king. See, the plan doesn't have to be perfect. We devise plans. They're not perfect plans, but your plan has to have some passion in it. If you do not have passion mixed into your plan, you're going to have a passionless, pitiful plan. Because a plan without passion is pitiful. It does not matter. You've got to have a passion. Nehemiah had a passion. It's better to have a plan with passion than anything else without passion. What do? Do the next thing and do it right. Step by step, day by day, here a little, there a little, just stepping out, doing what you know to do. If you're going to be going into ministry, find out what kind of ministry you're supposed to go into. If you're going to be developing a ministry, find out people that are doing it, see how it works. Oh, well, I know God will show me. We'll just do what God leads. Sometimes God leads us to learn from the mistakes of other people. It really grieves a pastor's heart when you see people doing the wrong things and you say, this is going to lead to destruction. Well, we got to learn it for ourselves. Why don't you learn it from somebody else? I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. I want to take the wheel and do something new with it. Take what someone else had learned and make that a leaping stone instead of a stumbling block. Step up instead of fall down on it. If you have an idea about doing something, hey, you can go online, and somebody's already done it, and they'll show you how to do it the right way, instead of you spending 10 years messing it up and then giving up, saying, well, I guess it just wasn't God. Well, if God's in it, he can show me how to do it. Yes, he can, but he may show you by showing you how somebody else did it. He did that in the scripture a lot of times. Jesus said, look, we're going to go out here, and I'm going to show you what to do. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to help you do it, then I'm going to leave you doing it. He didn't say, okay, be my disciple. Now y'all go out and figure it out how to do that. He showed them how. There's nothing wrong with having mentors. There's nothing wrong with finding what's working somewhere else and seeing if you can adapt it and make it work here. If it doesn't work, cast it off. If you got an idea about something, find a mentor, write a business plan. Look at a podcast about how to do it. You need a date? Take a bath. Sell PS4, buy a shirt with a collar on it. Go to Target where all the girls hang out looking for clothes. Be where they are, or the guys. Hey, if you're looking for a godly wife or a godly husband, don't go to the bar. I'm so amazed at how many people, well, I'm looking for a maiden, and, well, where are you looking? Well, I was down there at Scotty's the other night, or wherever. I was down there, and man, I saw the girl. She was hot. She was dancing with everybody. She was a little bit drunk, but that's okay. I can fix her up. No, you won't. Man, she was hot. Look, hot ain't hot in the dark. You know what I mean? You don't go find somebody that fits the physical and think I'll take care of the spiritual later. It usually 99.9% of the time doesn't work that way. If you want to find a godly Christian woman or godly Christian man, go where godly Christian people are. Like the song you say, I met her at church. I met her at church. Yeah, meet them at church. Find someone that's already doing what you want to be doing instead of trying to talk them into doing it. Maybe they'll do it someday, maybe they won't. Don't overlook the spiritual part of someone for the physical part. Success isn't the accomplishment in the future. It's doing the right thing today. Stepping out today. Seek God faithfully, define your vision clearly, make plans carefully, and number 4, it will inspire people passionately. If you do those things, it inspires people passionately. Now, next week, we're going to talk about this same message, but next week, you're going to find out. Remember we talked about the ad in the paper, going on a very dangerous journey. It's going to be cold, going to be near starvation conditions. There's a good chance you may not even make it back. Anybody want to go? If you do make it back, you'll be famous. Man, they lined up to go. Okay, this journey that Nehemiah's going on is one like that. They felt a lot of opposition. They had discouragement, they had distractions, they had fatigue. Nehemiah steps up, reaches down within his soul, and he even says, is it even worth this? Is it even possible? Look at verse 17, Nehemiah chapter 2. Then I said to them, he's already there talking to them, you see the trouble we're in Jerusalem? It lies in ruins. Its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. He said, look, we're in trouble here. But his passion took over. And he said, we can do this. We can build these gates. We can rebuild this wall. We can make ourselves stronger. We can get out of this disgrace. Inspire people. Have faith. God is for them. God is with them. God empowers them. God can make something different and make something great. John Wesley, who was the founder of the Methodist Church, said, light yourself on fire with passion and people will come from miles around to watch you burn. If you've got a passion, they may not agree with you, but they won't ignore you. You know, nobody ignored Paul the Apostle when he came to town. When he came to town, he had such a passion. People gathered around him. Some gathered around him to criticize and to crucify. Some gathered around him because they want to see what made the fire burn. They won't all want to see what the fire, go with the fire, but they'll all want to come see the fire burn. You will get an audience if you have a passion. You won't win them all. Jesus didn't win them all, but he gained the audiences. Some of the audiences walked away. but he had a passion. What I'm trying to say is, get lit. Hey, get lit and let somebody see you burn. How many people showed up at the little white church the night it was burning? They took it down because it was a disgrace and it was been disqualified for service, you know. And people showed up from all around. Why? People like to come where something's going on. They will go to a fire, but they wouldn't go to a bucket if you put a case of coils in it and going to freeze it. Who cares about watching water freeze? But they love coming to see that big fire. So get lit. You see, some 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago, some little 30 people came together and said, we're going to do something. And there was a passion for it. We're a part of a great work. Had no idea what it was going to be like. Thing is, we have no idea just how great. We still have no idea how great because we haven't seen the end yet. 30 went to 60, 90, 100, 150, 200, 250. We're going to hit 300. And that may not be the end either. Because if time continues, we're going to grow on. Who knows what God has in store? We just got to take it day by day, step by step, and keep our passion burning. We're doing a great work. Sometimes don't feel great. Sometimes I feel like I'm just back there changing babies' diapers. Hey, that's part of the great work. Somebody's got to do it. Nothing is too small, but nothing's too big. Take care of the small things and let the big things take care of themselves. Who knows? Why do we count people? Because people count. One person is a soul. And you made an eternal difference in one person. We can't win all of them, but we can win one of them. And that one that you win will be eternally grateful that you did. You can't bring everybody in, but you can bring one in, one family coming to get their life straightened out, their marriage worked out, and now they're a father and a wife and their kids, and they're all having a great time, loving God and having a good time together. You can't win every marriage, but you can win some of them. We can't fix everybody's problem, but we can fix the ones who will allow them problems to be fixed. The question is just know which is which. We don't spend a lot of time with people who don't try. We tell people all the time, we can't want this worse than you want it. If you want it, we're here with you, but if you don't want it, if you don't do it, we're not going to waste our time. You say, well, that's cruel. No, it's not cruel. There's only so much time, and you don't spend your time on people who are just sucking the life out of you, who want to come sit and talk for hours but never do anything about it. You sit down with somebody that says, hey, we got a plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to start doing this, this, this. And then you come back next week. I've done these things. I've done things. I'm feeling better. I'm getting better. We're getting healed. Man, we'll jump in that and we'll stay with that forever if it takes that long. Get a plan. Stick with the plan. Who knows? Maybe we have multiple locations. Building buildings, other buildings, building churches, filling heaven. That's our calling. Treat the sick spiritually and physically. And fill heaven with souls. What you care about is not an accident. You say, I have this burning desire. I don't know where I got this. I'll tell you where you got it. God put that desire in your heart. God gives us desires. In fact, the Bible says in Psalm, delight yourself in the Lord, and he'll do what? He'll give you the desires of your heart. So if you don't desire anything spiritually, maybe you're not delighting in the Lord. Put your delight in him, and he will plant in you the desires he wants you to have of the things that will fill you the most. God knew what he was doing when he made you. Yes, we can help. We can help people. We can save marriage. We can win the lost. We can find homes for the homeless. We can help deliver people from addiction. What has God entrusted you? What has God entrusted us to do? We have some vision, and we've cast vision. We continue to share vision. What's your vision? And I love when people get together and get in on the vision because we got a group of people moving in the same direction with the same motives, the same power. The burden you bear often reveals the difference you'll make. So I want to close with these two questions today. Will you do the work? Will you make a difference? I want you to bow your heads.